However, it's just so contentious right now, and kind of putting on, events large, where large groups of people are going to be in a small confined space isn't the it's not the right thing to do. It's basically the opposite of the right thing to do if you're from the pandemic point of view. So I understand, and as frustrating as it is for me not to play shows, I understand why we're doing it.
Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians, talk about their lives, music, and craft beer. I hope you had a glorious weekend. I most certainly did, because I was hanging out with a bunch of Vox and Hops heads, some of my closest friends, at Microbrasserie Mutaid this past Friday to celebrate the 3-year anniversary of Vox and Hops. Man, did we ever have a blast. We were enjoying killer brews from Microbrasserie Mutaid, but we were also enjoying the brand new Vox and Hops collabs that dropped on Friday, including Overhop Canada's brand new Vox and Hops collab, Double Vox and Overhops. That's right, it's a 8.5% double dry hopped, double New England IPA. It's just so damn dangerously delicious. Also available that night was the brand new massive collab with Le Fermentor, Mutaid, the GMPQ Facebook group, and Vox and Hops Ale of the Fathers. That's right, this is a massive 4-way collab which has been created to pay homage to the fantastic, fabulous Quebec metal scene. That's right, there is a massive playlist, the massive Quebec metal playlist, that has been curated and put together very carefully by Vox and Hops' metal architect, Jerry Monk. The good thing about this playlist is, if you think we have missed a band, if you think that a band should be there, please let us know and we will update it. This is a playlist that will continue to grow, something that we will refine into the ultimate Quebec metal playlist. And Ale of the Fathers, the old ale, has been created to pay homage to my beautiful province's amazing metal scene. This Vox and Hops episode is presented by Heavy Montreal. Heavy Montreal is Montreal's premier metal promoter, and I am super stoked to have teamed up with them to bring the very first edition of Heavy Montreal Presents Vox and Hops Brewtal Montreal, which is happening on December 17th at Théâtre de Corona here in Montreal. That night, my band Cryptopsy will be performing alongside my friends in The Agonist, The Great Sabatini, Necrotic Mutation, and Burning the Oppressor all night long. You will be able to enjoy killer brews from BG Brasserie Urbaine, Messorum Brassatorium, Brasserie du Bas-Canada, Sir John Brewing Company, 5e Baron, and Brasseurs de Montréal. This is an event you do not want to miss. Tickets are selling extremely quickly, so if you do want to come, make sure that you pick up your ticket via the link in the description of this podcast. I am so damn stoked to have Heavy Montreal behind the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I would just like to ask you to follow the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, I'm also asking you to tell one of your friends about the podcast. If there's someone in your life, a massive beer geek. Now, they don't have to be the biggest metalhead in the world, but they really enjoy craft beer. Your mission for this week is to tell them about the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. You can tell them that there are over 300 episodes available on all podcast platforms for them to check out, where I'm hanging out with metal musicians and we're talking all about craft beer. If you would encourage one of your friends to become a future Vox and Hops head, that would be something that I would truly appreciate. Now, in today's episode, I'm with Bryan Giles of Red Fang. Get ready, everyone. This is Vox and Hops episode number 304.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I'm with Bryan Giles of Red Fang. Bryan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. It's a beautiful day. I'm enjoying, life, metal, and craft beer with you, and that makes me happy. Let's dance straight into the darkness so that we can have fun later. How did you cope with this glorious, glorious pandemic that is lingering seems to be going away and then comes back a little bit stronger. How have you coped throughout this whole crazy times we've been living?
Well, I don't know. The best I could, I guess. Like I say, I mean, it's a major bummer for me. I try not to play the violins because obviously my problems are nothing compared to, some people, but man, it's been like 2 years since I played a show, and that's the longest since I was, I don't know, probably 15, since I've gone that long without playing music with someone else. So that was tough. So what I did was I think a lot of people did this, and I was putting it off because I hate computers and technology, and I don't want it to mess with my creativity, man, or whatever. But I was sort of forced into doing home recording, and so now I feel like I have an acceptable working knowledge of home recording, and have been doing a lot of that. So it's been fun, just especially since a lot of the stuff I'm working on is on my own. So just doing real wacky stuff like, I think this flute needs more flange and distortion, that kind of thing. So it's been interesting,
It sounds creative. It sounds liberating. And,
it is. It is. I mean, maybe too much so. I think probably I could use a band member to go, dude, stop that.
That is what's fun when you're collaborating with other people, is that they know when we should stop. Whereas sometimes we get into our own heads and we think it's a good idea. And, sometimes we need to be told that it's a horrible idea.
That's right. So, but in this case, I think it's good. It definitely kept the rust from forming. So we're back at rehearsing this week, and so I look forward to in-person human interaction. So that's the nice thing about here, pandemic part 2, is that at least, we're all vaccinated and we feel comfortable being in the same room together. So even though, we are, we're concerned about people's health, so we're not doing shit. We basically dropped the majority of this year already, because we don't want to get people sick. Like Aaron says, we want to play sick riffs, not sick people. So, but at least we're playing, so that helps my mindset quite a bit.
It is an important cathartic part of our lives, Bryan, to be able to express ourselves through music. It's something that we started doing it for a reason.
I think so. It was a long time ago, but I think there was a reason.
It's a part of our nature. It's a part of our personality. Sometimes we can't verbally say how we feel, but through the music we end up getting that cathartic release, which is something that we haven't had throughout this pandemic. So it hasn't been easy, but we are somewhat closer to getting back on stage, and I'm looking forward to that. Vox and Hops is all about hanging out with my metal friends, talking about their lives, music, and craft beer. What are we going to be sharing today virtually? What are you drinking there on your side?
I'm having a Lagunitas Hoppy Refresher. It's from Petaluma, California, and it's quite good. If you're not actually getting drunk, this is a pretty good facsimile, and I think you might get hydrated too. So that's nice.
So what is it's sparkling water with hops in it?
Yeah, it has a very surprisingly IPA flavor to it. It's a pretty heady brew for being essentially water. Very
interesting.
I was surprised that it was good. I thought, this will be terrible, but a friend of mine turned me onto it. I'm like, it's pretty good.
I love the hops, and not having a hangover is a good thing, especially when it's 11 in the morning for you. On my side, I'm going to be drinking a Vox&Hops Brewtal North America collab. This is actually the last one that came out. Throughout the month of June, I dropped 22 collabs all across North America with metal breweries and Vox&Hops alumni. This is the last one that came out because they had to rebrew it because the beer, there was a there was a defect in the beer, so they rebrewed it. This is Unhuman and Saint-Houblon's collab. It's called Chaotic Equilibrium. It is a New England IPA, 5.6%. It's a 5.6% ABV New England IPA with blueberries and ginger. And that's a wild, wacky beer combination if you think about it. But if you know the singer of Unhuman, Yuri Raymond, you know that he's a wild and wacky human and likes strange things. And I love him very, very much. I'm going to pour this out, and I would love to hear about your very, very first beer, Bryan.
Okay. The first beer I ever had was a Michelob in a bottle. I think I was about 8 years old, and I thought it was terrible. I don't know. I was like, what's the thing? Everybody's all excited about this. This is awful. This tastes nothing like Coca-Cola. I don't care for it, but I drank the thing because I wanted to be cool like my dad or whatever.
Well, cheers to you. Thanks for having a chat with me today.
Hey, cheers.
Cheers. This is super juicy, really cool. The ginger's subtle, a little sweet, tangy, really, really cool. Saint-Houblon, Unhuman, the last Brewtal North America collab. Love it. Let's talk about craft beer.
It's got a cool can too.
Hell yes. My friend Philip Ivanovic designed that for me. I basically just told him, I was like, let's just get like the Vox&Hops demon just like crawling out of North America. And he did that. So he rules.
Yes, so that beer is good when you're hella thirsty.
Yes, which I'm always thirsty. But let's talk about craft beer. Being from Portland, it's basically a craft beer mecca. Did you ever delve into the world of craft beer?
I was a bartender for a long time, so I'm not much of a connoisseur, but I was forced to have some of an education in beer because to sling it to people. So, but personally, I kind of I skew towards a Pilsner, an inexpensive variety.
Amazing. I would love to hear about the soundtrack of your youth. When you're growing up in your parents' or guardians' house, what music was playing when you were not in control of the radio? What music did your parents or guardians listen to?
A lot of Simon and Garfunkel, Crystal Gale, Styx.
Yes.
What's his name? The one with the cravat. James Taylor. Some pretty mellow 70s jams. Simon and Garfunkel, a ton of that. Oh, I guess I already said that. My wife is editing me now, and this is great. No pressure.
I love it. I'd say hello.
He says hello.
How about your first shows? Do you remember your first time going to witness live music?
I think the first concert that I remember going to was I must have been to other concerts, maybe the circus or something. I don't know. I must have seen live music before this, but the first concert I remember going to that was an event was Dolly Parton, Kenny Rogers, and the Oak Ridge Boys in Tucson, Arizona. And I remember distinctly it was my friend and my friend's family invited me, and I was 11, but I had just found out about ZZ Top for the first time, and they were playing across the street, and I was really bummed because I really wanted to see ZZ Top, but no, we're gonna go see this country music. I was rolling my eyes, just couldn't believe it. But man, I tell you, even then I was like, this is really good, and now as an adult, I'm really happy I had that experience because, will I ever see Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton, or the Oak Ridge Boys again? I strongly doubt it. But if I could see that concert again, I would go. But but it was something. It was a concert in the round, and that was a really interesting. I'd never seen that before, and it seems like a pain in the ass logistically from a band point of view, but they did a great job, and just so many flowers. Kenny Rogers was like up to his knees in flowers, in roses. They just loved him. Quite the heartthrob in whatever 1986.
How about your first time on stage? I imagine it was with a trumpet in your hand.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was in the band, and I guess starting in 6th grade through 8th grade, and so yeah, well, I did a lot of that. I was in a musical. I think I was like a chipmunk, and I remember having to wear black nylons and this squirrel outfit, and was just mortified. I was like, this is awful. I think the parents loved it. They're like, look at this, look at the little weirdos up there, so I think so I'm not sure that's where I got the bug to be on stage from. I mean, but I did struggle my way into those tights, and I did my thing.
You guys do wear some pretty funny outfits in your music videos, so maybe it all stemmed from there.
Well, a lot of those outfits are my street clothes, so watch it, buddy.
How about do you remember your first time on stage with a guitar? Your first metal experience on stage?
The first concert at a venue was that was probably 1990, and I was in a band called Wonderful Station Wagon. And basically it sort of morphed into Wondervollen Station Wagen, because we were nobody, but we put on this venue. We put on the show at a venue that has legit, touring bands, and so we just told them we were from Braunschweig, Germany.
No way.
Which clearly is a food and not a place. But they gave us a guarantee and pizza, so we showed up and
win.
What?
I said that's a win right there.
Oh, I know. And so we showed up, and we ate the pizza, but the promoter was like, "Hang on, you guys aren't from Germany?" And we're like, "Oh yeah." And they're like, "Well, there'll be no $100 for you."
Really?
Yeah, they pulled the money, but we'd already eaten the pizza, so whatever. We wanted our foot in the door, so that was all right. And I remember I wore a motorcycle helmet, like a full motocross motorcycle helmet with a I guess it was like a pelican skull duct taped to the top of it that I stole from biology class. And one of the songs I remember doing was called Shitting Blood. And I think the chorus was, I swallowed a cheese grater, I shat it out later, I was shitting blood. It's really deep stuff, man. Anyway, that was quite an experience. And I think my favorite things, but no, I guess it was 1989. No. Oh my God, was it really that early? It might have been 1987, 88. Yeah, it was 1988 is when it was. I was 15 or 16. And any case, so like I said, the promoter didn't know, figured out we weren't German pretty quickly. But then there was somebody in Tucson that was from Germany and came to the show specifically to talk to other Germans, just because he hadn't been home in a while. And he came backstage, and he was visibly upset that we were not who we said we were. Anyway, but he was pleasant enough about it, but you could tell he was a little ticked off anyway. So we're like, hey, well, so sorry, we're not German, but is there any way you would introduce us in German? So, to add to our mystique. And he's like, sure. And so he goes out there, lights are dimmed, and he's like, I pretend German is awful, but he's like, Wondervollen Stationwagen. He's just ramping it up, and it just sounds like Triumph of the Will or something. Not really, but okay. Anyway, so and then we all come out on stage and we play Shitting Blood or whatever song we did. So there was quite a crowd. Our flyer campaign was intense, so we actually did play to a crowd. But a year later, I had moved to Pittsburgh, and a friend I'd made out there was in had been taking German, was in German club, and I was like, oh my God, well, I have this recording of this show I did last year. This guy doing German, introducing us. I have no idea what he's saying. Can you tell me what he's saying? And she's like, okay. So we listened to the tape, and she's like, well, what he says is, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I came tonight to meet these guys. I went backstage, and they're really not very good musicians. I don't think they know what they're doing. They're not even German. Wonderful station wagon. Anyway, so they basically just kind of derided this, but I don't think anybody in the audience spoke German either. So that went over really well, just because it was exciting. But anyway, like a year later, I found out that he's just been slamming us. But it all worked out, Amazing. Anyway, I think that was our only concert as Wonderful Station Wagon. And then I went on to many other bad ideas.
Hilarious. That's amazing. Red Fang just dropped Arrows on June 4th via Relapse Records. Funny videos. You guys are known for funny videos. The way that I have 10,000 craft beer collab ideas with Cryptopsy, we have 2 out so far. There's more in the works. I just have an endless bag of ideas. How do you guys come up with all these hilarious videos? You guys, it's almost like you guys are known for it. You guys have great music, obviously, which is why it works, but a lot of recognition for your hilarious out of the box music videos. Where do those ideas come from?
A majority of our videos are the concepts are the director, Whitey McConaughey. If it's live action and it makes you laugh, it's most likely his his work. Yeah. We started with him. I guess it was maybe 2000. God, I don't know, 2010. I don't know, but he did a video for. He came to us for the concept Prehistoric Dog, and we were just laughing our asses off. I mean, it was what a ridiculous thing. I was like, this idea is great, and I knew he was an accomplished videographer. But I was like, well, let's see if this actually translates. And it was even better than, he had described. He's really clever at making these things happen and making them happen on a shoestring budget. We didn't have, a pot to piss in, especially back then. There was no budget. I think he did it at, just to help us out. I mean, and it really did help us out. We had a MySpace page at the time, and Prehistoric Dog had been on our MySpace page, which was the premier way to check out bands on the interwebs back then. And I think the song had been up for over a year and had around 10,000 listens. And then the video came out, and within a month it had 30,000 views. And so it really made a big difference as far as, people finding out about us. And so, if it's not broke, don't fix it, and he's still willing to make videos for us. And so it's a great way for us to bridge the gap, with fans. Say, yeah, well, we're not tough guys. We're not flexing on you. We're just here to party, have a good time. And I think that people kind of understand that about us. So it's nice, it makes for a really pleasant fan interaction, because they don't have to tell us how much they deadlift or whatever. That's not the conversation that you're gonna have with us. So, but anyway, yeah, I mean, the credit goes to Whitey. I mean, we get to throw in our 2 cents if there's gags like, oh well, what about this gag or that gag. But the grand concepts are all his, and basically we still get together at a bar or something, and we just hash out the ideas, and the ones that grab us the most, and the ones that we can afford. It's like, oh, I love us jumping out of a plane, but we can't afford that, so let's not do that. I mean, one day maybe someone will give us a check that could actually cover that, but for the time being, we are on Earth doing ridiculous cheap things.
I think that's really interesting. Cryptopsy, we're sort of in the same boat. No one in-house, like in the band, is a video guy. I have a friend, Chris Kells. He does a lot of stuff for the podcast. He does music videos for a bunch of artists. He's from The Agonist. And so they're like in-house guy, video guy is Chris Kells. So you guys found this extra family member, basically, that's become an outside like source family of Red Fang that you trust to come up with these visions for you guys.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's great that he's still doing it. I think the time for him to do favors for us is well over. Not that there ever was a time, but it's great he's still interested. And we just did a live stream, quote unquote. Of course, none of these live streams are really 100% live, but he assembled a camera crew. I think there was like 7 or 8 camera folks, and he did just a really fantastic job, and that didn't have like comedy or anything in it. Well, there was a little comedy bit at the beginning, but that was just a live video, but it looks and sounds great. And so it is really nice. I mean, I don't know what the videos would look like if we were doing them. It would be like, what does the bottom of my thumb look like? That would be probably the video.
Are there any ideas on what he comes to you and he pitches stuff to you and then you're just like, no, that's too much? Has there ever been one? A concept that just was too out of the box, too extreme?
No, actually. I think he knows us enough to know what our tolerance for wackiness is. And there's ideas that we still have, but we try to chase them down, and it just wouldn't work logistically. We had a concept that involved children, and just the legally getting children on set is a nightmare. So we're like, all right, no kids, which is fine by me. I don't have any, and for a reason. So anyway, but no, he has great ideas. It just comes down to whether or not we can make it happen or not. And generally he makes these things happen. It's crazy. It's just it's like, there's no way we can afford to do this on this budget, and the time constraints and who's in town, this kind of thing. But it all seems to work out. It's amazing.
It's amazing. It's a match made in heaven. I think it's awesome. Just perfect. It's really launched your career, really helped your career. I think it's cool. I like when I had no idea that this is how that went down. So I think it's very interesting. I love hearing stuff.
And then we have more recently been working with a guy named Ansel Wallenfang, who sort of came to us out of the blue. He worked at an ad agency here in town, and he contacted our tour manager initially, like, hey, would the guys like to do X, Y, or Z video? And Chris Coyle, our tour manager, was like, I don't think you should be talking to me about this. But they had a discussion, and then he made a connection. He made made us get together. And anyway, so he was responsible. We just did a video. Well, it was like 5 years ago now. But he made a video which basically it was an interactive video where in order to watch it, you had to headbang accurately to the song. Well, I've never watched the whole video in that format because, well, it hurts my neck. I think it's for young people. But anyway, it was a really cool idea. That is anyway. Cool. So he realized that, and that's still out there. It's for a song called Antidote. And then one of the videos we released for Arrows was for the song Why, and it was like animatronic animals in a band, at a pizza shop, and the singer falls into he gets addicted to pizza, and his life kind of goes to shit. So anyway, but that video is fantastic. I think that's one of his first live action videos he's ever done, and I think it's really good, and it probably helps that we're almost not in it at all. I think it stands on its own as a really weird sort of like, I don't know, it's like it's cute meets Requiem for a Dream kind of thing. Anyway, so I'm excited about working with him, and now I think in the next maybe month or so we'll have another video up by him where we are buried alive, which is which sucks to shoot, man.
I can imagine.
I'll get in a coffin, but when I'm dead, Anyway, so they had us in this coffin built for hours, and yeah, whatever. We see what we do for art.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm really excited about it. I think it's gonna be a really fun video. Not so much to shoot, but I think that the end result's gonna be great. So I'm anticipating seeing a rough cut of it, I think, the next day or two. So hopefully everyone else will see it in a month or so.
Amazing. Let's talk about craft beer. Now, you guys just dropped one with Wayfinder, of course. That makes complete sense with Matt and Relapse. It's the Malt Liquor Weekender edition with the hops from Hop Revolution from New Zealand. Talk to me about how this beer came together. Talk to me about how this beer exists. There it is, right there.
Here
exactly.
it is. Yeah. The Wayfinder guys are super nice folk. They have an association with Relapse. I want to say, well, Orion Landau, who has done all of our album art since we started putting records. All of our Relapse records are his art, and so they came to us about doing a beer, and I was like, well, of course, that sounds great. And then, we sort of let them run with it. And then about, a couple of months later, sort of spaced out on it. And then they came back and said, okay, we have it. And I was like, great. What is it? And they're like, it's a malt liquor. My God, man. You kidding me?
Which for people that don't know is basically like a Colt 45 and what all those big brews from back in the 90s would be.
Yeah, that's right. Old English,
exactly.
All the stuff that just makes you feel terrible before you're even done with the evening. You're like, on your second one, you're like, oh my God.
What was the concept about that?
Forget about regretting the next morning. I regret tonight.
Why did they associate you guys with that?
I think that, like I said, my beer drinking skews towards, inexpensive yellow beer. When you want to drink like 10 of them, you're not really tasting the subtlety of it. You're just putting it in your face and, catching a buzz. So anyway, so that sort of became a thing, with our videos and stuff, that we're sort of associated with shit beer. But I don't think that was their motivation necessarily. But, I guess, if anything, it's brews for the people or whatever. But I will say that having tried it, it's malt liquor. Certainly, it has those characteristics. But it's a microbrew, and it's fresh. I sampled it, a couple of days after it had just come out of the tank, right into the can. So it was an incredibly delicious version of that. Like I say, if you don't like malt liquor, you won't probably enjoy this either. But it's quite refreshing, surprisingly.
It's amazing. I think it's so cool. There was 3 artworks as well, which I thought was very, very a smart thing to do with a band collab, to have like multiple versions of collectors. This whole collecting of craft beer, of music, of vinyls. I think it's just so damn cool. He's gonna go show us, I bet.
Yes.
I love it. Exactly.
This one, this Psychic Tiger. I think this is my favorite one. John has this on his kick drum now, and it looks
it's awesome.
Really good.
Did you guys provide the art,
one.
or is it which is your album cover?
I don't have the third one, but it is the Psychic Tiger is part of. I'm not sure if it even appears on the album, honestly. There's a lot of like clip art involved in the packaging, so this is one of them. I feel terrible. I don't know if it appears on the album or not, but it's definitely inspired by that, and it's part of a, Orion. Hello.
That's okay. No stress. Go for it.
My phone, I've got 5% left on my thing, so might have to switch to my I might have to switch to my computer or something in a
Yeah,
minute.
I got about probably 10 minutes more. Yeah.
We'll see what happens. 5%. Anyway, but yeah, I think the art is really cool. I'm really excited to get guitar picks with some of these images on them. And I also like that it's all neon pink and green, so I won't lose them in the carpet.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Very, very cool. Big subject. You guys, we spoke about it briefly at the beginning. You want to play sick riffs. You don't want to play the sick people. Canceling a tour. It's hard enough having conversations about what's going on in the world right now with friends, let alone bandmates, family members. Take me to this decision of you guys deciding to cancel a tour. Was everybody on board? And you don't have to name names, but what was that whole decision process like, deciding to not go out on the road when there are massive festivals going on? Incarceration Fest just happened. Thousands of people there. Just take me through this whole process, if you can.
Well, I think everyone has a different risk tolerance,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say probably of the people in the band, I'm the one who's most risk tolerant. My attitude, and this is not defensible, and I'm not here to argue my point. I'm just saying what my attitude is. Well, basically, we canceled last year because of the pandemic, which. And I'm not saying we're not doing the right thing. I believe we are, but the big thing for me is that once we got the vaccine, I felt like at some point there's a tipping point, and it varies from person to person of your personal responsibility for like I'm not everyone's mother, and if the vaccine is out there and you can be hardcore on your mask mandates. If you go to a concert, you can quarantine yourself from your family members that may be at risk, with compromised immune systems or elderly, and stay away from them and be safe. And I feel like that's personal responsibility. So my attitude was like, well, I think we can do this safely, and basically just have vaccine and mask mandates for all the shows and do it as safely as possible. And so I felt pretty comfortable doing that. However, it's just so contentious right now, and kind of putting on, events large, where large groups of people are going to be in a small confined space isn't it's not the right thing to do. It's basically the opposite of the right thing to do if you're from the pandemic point of view. So I understand, and as frustrating as it is for me not to play shows, I understand why we're doing it, and as difficult as it was for me, like, oh my God, another year we're not playing shows.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna smash shit, but I understand that it's the right thing, and I feel like we're gonna land on the right side of history when all this is said and done. And like I say, I don't want to be responsible for anyone getting seriously ill, or someone go to a concert and they get on the bus on the way home and kill some old lady they had never met before. And so I don't want blood on my hands, and I feel like until we get over the hump and maybe we start seeing 70%, 80% of the population vaccinated, it's not safe to go in the water right now, so that was where that went down. And I had to really course correct myself mentally. I was like, because my attitude to some degree is like, well, fuck them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to, if they don't want the vaccine, fuck them. But that's kind of a shit attitude. So I'm trying to reel back from that, because you know what? I've had terrible ideas too, but these are life and death terrible ideas. So, whatever. I mean, everyone's got their hackles up on both sides of the fence on this thing. And, everyone has a right to have their own opinion, but I think for our part, not creating an environment where the virus can spread is the least we can do, you know. As it's killing me not to get on stage, but like I say, you know, I'll wait until we can truly have a good time and there's not something in the back of your head saying, how many people we kill today? You know, fuck that.
Yeah. The response was majority positive, from what I read, when you guys announced this, which means that your fan base, they seemed open and respectful of your decision, which I thought was cool.
It was, you know, and I try not to dive into that world too much, but yeah, it did seem like the reaction was better. I mean, I've seen trolls just be merciless, you know.
Oh, yeah.
and there have been some comments where it's like, well, fuck you, and you know, I don't give a shit about you, and I'll never listen to your band again. It's like, okay, if that's real, if you know, wearing a mask or going to Walgreens and sitting still for 5 minutes is really the breaking point between you and me as far as having a, you know, relationship. It's like, well, then really didn't have much to go on in the first place, did we? So anyway, but yeah, in general, people have been cool about it. And the thing is, you know, if anybody thinks that it was like some kind of flippant, like, yay, let's not play shows, they are freaking wrong.
No.
You know?
Like I being in a band, I can only imagine the amount of back and forth.
Are you guys out on the road?
We haven't done a single thing the whole time. No.
Welcome to hell.
Yeah.
It's awesome. What goes on in this party? Nothing.
I am very lucky that I do get to fill the void of performing with the podcast. So I get to have chats with people like you, and right before we set up, I get those same little like goosebumps, same little, you know, spur of energy as if I was about to climb onto stage. You mentioned that you started doing home recording to fill your void. How else have you been filling the void of performing?
I did a video, 2 minutes to late night. They do,
really?
You know,
yeah.
They do covers.
Rules. Yeah.
Anyway, I kind of jumped into that. I got an oversized cowboy hat and I climbed in the back of a pickup truck and we drove around the neighborhood and I was air guitaring. So I'm like, well,
amazing.
This is kind of like a show. At least for my neighbors. They're like, should I call police non-emergency? I think our neighbor has lost his mind.
I love it. One last question. It probably doesn't happen to you very often because you know what's going on and you know your limits. But every once in a while, it happens to everyone. What is your hangover cure?
Honestly, more of the same, which is awful to say. And I don't, whatever. But that seems to work. You know, in the short term, anyway. Hair of the dog, or as I like to say, pelt of the dog. The whole fucking dog. Fuck it. It's Tuesday. Amazing. Fuck it. Let's call it a day on the whole day.
Bryan, thank you so much taking the time having a chat with me, talking about your life, music, and craft beer. I had an absolute blast. Everyone go check out Arrows, the brand new Red Fang album dropped June 4th, Relapse Records. It's a great album and you're going to enjoy it. Bryan, thank you so much. This was great. Cheers.
Hey, thanks for having me. Cheers, everybody.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. Man, did I ever have an excellent conversation with Bryan. Man, did we ever get a little bit more political than I tend to do on the podcast. It's not something that I like to do. I just feel like the conversation was there to be had, and I thought it was very interesting, so I dug a little bit deeper into it than I normally would have as soon as I finished recording this conversation. I apologized to Bryan, and he was super cool about it, and he felt comfortable, and he thought that it was something that was important to be spoken about, so I feel good that we did. This was an awesome conversation, and I can't wait to hang out with Bryan again. Now, if you don't necessarily agree with what we did talk about today, that's okay, because you're allowed to have your opinions, and we're allowed to have ours, and we're still allowed to be friends and be good humans. Now, if you enjoyed this Vox and Hops episode, you should sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast mailing list. You can do that on my website, voxandhops.com. That's VOXANDHOPS.com. And when you do that, you shall receive one email a week containing all of the details of everything that has happened throughout the past week in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, including all the details for any episodes which I dropped throughout that past week, if I've been a guest on someone else's podcast, as well as any pertinent information of any cool projects I have in the works, as well as the updated links to the Brutal Awakenings playlist, which is curated by my man Jerry Monk, the metal architect himself, and is available on both Apple Music and Spotify. Now, there's just so much going on in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. I would hate for you to miss a single thing, so please sign up to that mailing list. The Vox and Hops Metal Podcast is brought to you by Sound Talent Media. I hope you have a glorious rest of the week. I will be back next week, but until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox and Hops hits.